cherubs, sculptures, battlements, gutters, grotesque, Goliath, Bronc, constable, downspout. Oh, Terry Pratchett, you've done it again. Let's talk about gargoyles. The longer a tribe of gargoyles abides in a region of ruins or buildings, the more its members come to resemble that region's architectural styles. The changes of gargoyles' appearance undergoes are slow and subtle, but over the course of years, it can shift radically. This quote from Brandon Hodge is going to be very prominent in the way that I think about gargoyles, because as it stands, there isn't really a lot of myth or lore about them in D&D or otherwise. I think a big chunk of the gargoyle lore stems from the Disney movies and cartoon shows, and honestly, I'm not really sure where a lot of that comes from. And so we're going to have to go a little off the books this time and see what it takes to play a decorative architectural fixture carved specifically as a termination point for the purpose of conveying water away from the sides of buildings. It's gonna be sexy. And because I assume most people want to play a character, not just a very deranged looking statuary, we're probably gonna have to look at some actual stats. What are the important features of a gargoyle and kind of how they can be adapted to a playable character? Let's talk about what we do know. All gargoyles. Gargoyles. Oh my, the gargoyles. All gargoyles across the D&D universe have two things in common. Damage reduction of some kind and the ability to freeze. And not in the preserve freshness kind of way. The damage reduction, I think, makes a lot of sense, regardless of how you look at it. Whether you want it to be a resistance to non-magical damage by non-adamantine weapons. Why are there so many long words in this one? Or if you want to go the Pathfinder route and do DR10 to magic, I think it makes a lot of sense for a creature that spends most of its life pretending to be a high-yield downspout. Probably needs to have a passive protection from meddling children or really aggressive pigeons. The freeze ability, on the other hand, is where things get a little bit weird. They all say the same variation of as long as the gargoyle isn't moving, it appears to be a stone statue. Perfect stillness is pretty awesome. Like, the ability to hide in plain sight is not something that a lot of creatures have. Pathfinder manual even allows them to take a 20 on stealth checks to hide in plain sight as long as they are hiding as a statue. I'm not sure when that will come in handy as a player, but I think it's a pretty fun option. Just convince your party to take some real statues in. It'll be fun. Part of this comes from the natural ability of their bodies to slowly blend into their surroundings over long periods of time, slowly shifting different types of stone and earth, different types of rocks, and even becoming bejeweled in the situations as they are required to do so. In 5e, they've been labeled as earth elementals, and originally I kept thinking, well, that's really dumb. I mean, they're only stone during the day. But then it hit me. That's not actually true. That's only in the case of the Disney cartoon show. And when the fuck did that become the epitome of gargoyle lore? I mean, yes, it is called gargoyles, but for fuck's sake, there's only, like, one of them is a dog. It's not even like a gargoyle person. It's just a dog. You could have at least been like a food dog or something, but no, it's just a dog that is also a gargoyle. That doesn't make any sense. This kind of dual state based around sunlight is a cool concept, but something I've only ever really seen in trolls and a few other underground fey creatures, and it's usually fatal. So if you want to do that and you want to say, hey, go, and you can only come out at night, that's fine, but gargoyles don't really have any other proclivities towards being active at night, except that they don't want to be seen. They do have 60 feet of dark vision, but that's pretty standard for most races in 5th edition, and 60 feet isn't even that great. So really, their surprise attack is only effective when people think they're statues, and it doesn't really matter what time of day it is. I think they would be just as happy at home in a dark cave or in a dark dungeon as they would sitting on top of the ramparts of a cathedral or tower. They really are just big old rock monsters, which then brings me back to them being elementals. And I'm slowly leaning into that being okay. If not elementals, elemental adjacent. They were originally monstrous humanoids that had an earth elemental subtype. I think that's okay. I really like the idea that over time people just kind of forget they're there and they just slowly fade into the background until they're ready to pounce, slowly ambushing the poor and helpless at night to sate their terrible hungers. But hey, I mean, they keep the place safe, right? And this actually brings up a good point. Some places it does say that they have to stop and eat and devour things or people that get in their way and find their treasure holes, but it also says that they can stand motionless for years. So which is it?
You know, I don't like how I said treasure holes.
Boy, that's kind of moving into a weird gray area that maybe I don't want to think about. Let's move on. So unless you're going to be shifting from your frozen state via magical means, you're effectively made out of stone all the time. A DR10 or a damage resistance to non-magical attacks is great. I think that's awesome. Somehow you're still able to fly. Not only that, but you can hover, which means you just essentially don't have to roll flight checks unless something really weird happens. Not to mention you move hella fast. I mean, maybe it's the ambush predator thing, but like 40 feet of movement speed and 60 of flight, that's surprisingly fast for something that is essentially a kitchen countertop with horns. Oh yeah, the horns. As a monstrous humanoid, you'd normally get the multi-attack feat, which allows you to attack with claws, fangs, and horn in a single action. But since we've only got the multi-attack on monstrous feats, you're going to have to access those attacks via your class skills or feats that you take. Now, if your DM allows you to take monster feats, That's totally fine. It can be a lot of fun, but it is very powerful. So make sure that you are still granting them at the correct when feats become available. That being said, I still think you should have access to all 3 of those attacks. And using one of those as an offhand attack should be just fine. I might even look into a gore attack or a charge because of how fast they move in combination with their stone horns. But once again, this could be part of the charger feat, or if you decide to go into the monster feats, that works perfectly well. Maybe if you're not sure how to stop a big bad evil guy, why not just drop out of the sky with a 120-foot stone horn pile driver? Should be a good chunk of damage. Or you could completely obliterate a random goblin or that annoying rogue in your party. Tell your party it's hard to fly or something. I don't know. You're a giant boulder. You fall out of the sky. It's your natural state. Wait, would the natural state be falling out of the sky or just being in the ground? Aside from that, they get bonuses to stealthing in environments, which match their stone type. A large bonus to their constitution. I would go like a +4 to your constitution with a -2 to your int and wisdom. And then you're kind of good to go. Get out there and get your heart on. No, wait. I see why you would bleep that. Maybe make yourself rock hard. Nope. Get as stiff as... No, hold on. It's not getting any better. Cold hard. You know what? We're just gonna... You just get out there and do what you want. There is an argument to be made about simply having the Gargoyles be a Warforged variant. And seeing as there isn't a lot of lore about the origin of Gargoyles, I don't see why there couldn't be some out there that Wizards made to defend certain places. The Green Guardian variant will constantly regenerate so long as nobody smashes its obsidian eyes. And that feels a little more magically inclined than just a random creature. But I also kind of like that they are these strange old world oddities that just kind of exist. On that note, it would be really cool to switch a variant type depending on your surroundings. Hanging out in a volcano? Cool, you get glassy obsidian thorns damage whenever people punch you with natural attacks. You want to hang out in the desert? Great, your sandstone exterior now gives you a sweet burrow speed. Lots of tall buildings around in your vicinity? You're in luck. You have a climb speed now, and you can vomit out high-powered jets of water to knock people over. Where does the water come from? Who knows? That's between you and your Blastoise. Apparently you have some sort of natural spring inside that rock-hard, marbled exterior. Thanks for watching, everybody. Remember to keep your dice on the table. And check out the Patreon, because the Patreon members are awesome and they make this channel possible. If you're not a Patreon member and you want some sweet stickers, click that link down below. Do you think the Gargoyles can make, like, any part of their body stiff, hard, shifted? Do they not move, or does it actually become rock? I guess if you rock all the time, you're always hard. The longer a tribe of Gargoyles...